Italo Disco by Last Dinosaurs is a song that, when it comes up during shuffle, I always find myself encapsulated by how genuine it is. It's got a very real feel to it, and it doesn't demand your attention like a lot of pop songs do nowadays. I still remember the first time I listened to the song. I was walking home from work on a freezing day, and decided to check out an album I've been meaning to listen to. When the song came on, it became an instant favorite, even though it was stylistically very different from the rest of the album. I remember I was feeling pretty directionless at the time, and listening to this song definitely helped me resolve those feelings. So what about this song is so special? I've been wondering that for a while now, until I finally decided to spend a Saturday morning listening to it over and over again and analyzing and dissecting its components. And honestly, I was pretty shocked at how thoughtful and nuanced the song is. I discovered details I had completely missed before, and it made me appreciate the song even more. So in this video, I want to share my findings with you and hopefully convince you to give the song a listen. Without further ado, let's begin the analysis. At the start, the music feels closeted. A suppressed synth melody, echoed vocal fragments, and a steady bass line set a faint, almost psychedelic scene. The muted drums ties it apart rhythmically, while a faint background synth fills out the texture. There are already a few key observations to be made at this point. Firstly, from the chord progression alone, which goes G minor for 2 bars, F major, and then D minor, you might think that this song is in the key of G minor like I did. But upon examining the notes, I found that this E natural came up again and again, which strongly indicated that this song is actually in the key of G Dorian, or G minor with a natural 6. Secondly, really pay attention to the simplicity of the drum groove and the bass line here, because that will change in a moment. Let's listen to it now, and I want you to pay attention to the gradual lift of the low-pass filter on the drums, and see if you can pick up the background synth. In the 9th measure, the song reveals its true colors. The drums become clear and unmuffled, and so too does the synth, now bright and dreamy. The electric guitar is introduced and fills the mid-frequencies with mellow strummed 8th notes. The bass line becomes more interesting, and this E natural note here in the 10th measure really does it for me every time I listen to the song. It's like it's telling you, hey, if you haven't picked up on it, I am in G Dorian. And also, I just really love how the first kick of the big reveal is punchier than the rest of them. It really does add to the sudden shift in atmosphere. To me, these changes paint a relaxed yet poignant atmosphere, almost like opening your apartment door to a light drizzle outside as you exit. The electric guitar and the synth summon the clouds above you. The melody falls on you like raindrops, while you tread on with a steady groove and bass line. Let's listen and pay attention to the transition and how everything blends together to create pensiveness. Now we reach the first verse. There's a few things worth commenting on here, so let's get through them one by one. Firstly, notice how there isn't even a crash cymbal hit here, so it doesn't really feel like a transition. The intro just flows seamlessly into the verse, and thus the pensive atmosphere carries over too. Secondly, notice that for the first 8 bars of the verse, the synth melody drops completely and the bass line simplifies. This change subtly focuses your attention to the introduction of the vocals. The vocals are also worth examining. Listen closely, and you notice that some notes are sung slightly after the beat, which fits the carefree atmosphere. Additionally, notice that the melody doesn't even start or resolve on a triad note. It starts on a C and resolves to an A in the first measure it comes in, which is the 11th and the 9th of the G minor chord. I don't know if it's just me, but I always feel a sense of tranquil unsettledness during this part. Let's listen now, and pay attention to how the synth disappears, and how the bass line simplifies to funnel your attention to the introduction of the soft vocals. After 8 bars, you're accustomed to the vocals, so the melody synth returns, along with a more interesting bass line and drum groove filled with open hats to build novelty within the verse. Take a listen. Onto the B verse. Immediately, you will notice a change in the atmosphere, and this is due to a couple of factors. Firstly, the chord progression finally deviates from the G minor, F, to D minor pattern, because you were conditioned to expect a G minor chord at the start of each 4-measure loop. The F chord that actually arrives surprises you and sounds just a bit brighter. In addition, the bass line changes to repetitive eighth notes, and the drum beat simplifies to hi-hat eighth notes in order to keep track of time. Then, after 2 measures, in full contrast to the A verse, the pad synth becomes much more audible, adding a subtle layer of intensity in the background. The drums enter with a complete role reversal of the kick and snare, so now the snare keeps the beat while the kick syncopates. Notice that 3 instruments now are repeating eighth notes with little variation. Together with the crescendo of the pad synth, they slowly build anticipation for a final moment in the verse. And look, here it comes. After the progression that goes F major, D minor, G minor, the final chord declares its arrival confidently. And for the first and only time in the entire song, we hear the uplifting and hopeful mediant chord, B flat major. Paired with the cautiously optimistic lyrics sung in a nostalgic tone, this final intense moment fills me with bittersweetness. Next, we go through 8 bars of transition, returning to the standard bass line, drum groove, and chord progression. It's essentially just a copy and paste of the intro with added vocal improvs. But to me, the breathy and plaintive texture of the vocals remind me of what reliving beautiful memories with a past lover feels like. Otherwise, this transition serves as a buffer between the B verse and the second A verse, essentially adjusting your ears from the intense B verse back to the more relaxed A verse, and reestablishes the main chord progression. Take a listen. We reach the second A verse, and the clouds darken. The electric guitar deviates from strumming repetitive eighth notes, and instead arpeggiates the chords. I want to point out that this E natural here sticks out through the mix like a sore thumb, and really introduces that confusing, heartachy feeling to this section. Although this is the only variation compared to the first A verse, it somehow feels much more depressing and melancholic. Once again, after 8 measures, the melody synth kicks back in, the guitar goes back to strumming the chords. The lyrics this time are also much more descriptive and fragmented, and despite its brevity, you can easily complete the story in your mind. Onto the C verse, where it has 2 very distinct subsections. The first subsection of 8 bars arrives with the drastic dynamics change, cutting everything except for the electric guitar and vocals. This is the quietest section of the song, and definitely the calm before the storm. The chord progression changes up too, opting for a F major, A minor, G minor, to C major loop. The second subsection is the climax. The syncopated drums and repetitive bass line returns, the guitar arpeggiates the chords, and the saw synth returns and crescendos as the song climaxes. The most interesting part of this section, though, is right here. Even though I did not notate a change in time signature, if you listen closely, it will sound like the band skips a beat right here and adds a beat right here. These 2 key beats, occupied by a single snare hit both times, carry so much weight. The first one grabs your attention and enhances the final line of the lyrics, and the second one caps it off like a period. The saw synth between these 2 beats are audibly the loudest it has ever been in this entire song, further adding to the visceral atmosphere. On top of everything, the chord during the climax is C major, the major subdominant chord. In a minor key, this isn't possible, since the flattened 6 would render the subdominant chord a minor chord, and this is where being in the key of G Dorian really shines through. The natural 6 in the Dorian scale allows the subdominant chord to be a C major instead of C minor, and that C major to G minor resolution is a playful, bright respite in a song of candid sadness. The outro gently guides the move of the song back down, and it is essentially a copy and paste of the intro, with the caveat of the electric guitar playing sparse chords, heavily reverbed here and there. This change in the strumming pattern reduces the forward momentum of the song, which makes sense, since it is the outro. The song ends with a new synth playing a new motif replacing the bass, muted drums, and the synth pad. Not much else to say. It's a mellow end to a mellow song. Let's take a moment to reflect on what makes this song so good holistically. On the instrumentation side, I thoroughly enjoy the balance between the dreamy synth on the high end, the smooth bass line on the low end, and the mellow and gentle guitar and vocals in the middle. None of the elements overpower each other, and they blend together beautifully to make this comforting and melancholic song. On the music theory perspective, I was encapsulated by the Dorian mode and the sparse use of the major mediant and major subdominant chords characteristic of the Dorian scale. And although the chord progression is repeated once every 4 bars, it never really feels boring. On the structural side, I noticed that this song is quite unusual in the sense that it lacks a chorus section. Despite this, I still feel that it is balanced in structure, and the numerous transition sections seamlessly unifies the verses into one complete song. But speaking personally, if I had to explain why this song sounds so good to me, I would say that it's just so gentle and effortlessly captivating. It doesn't try to jostle for your attention. Instead, it simply is, and it calmly invites you to listen and hear what it has to say instead of demanding your complete attention. And that is rare nowadays.